All right, people, I'm back. Finally, I got a day off. Finally, 4 days in a row of work. Bloody hell. And today, we're going to go ahead and make a special videos, back to back videos. We finally get our way up to episode 14. And you know what that means? Woo! That means today's video is going to be called the NFL versus the CFL, the Canadian Football League. Now, this is going to be a very interesting and very different football video because it's all about smash mouth, in your face, balls to the wall, and knock your head off football. That hard contact. Woo! The nature boy! Sorry, I had to do that. Now, one of the things that I would love to happen in the NFL, if it would ever happen, is if they consider on one football team from Canada coming into the NFL. I mean, because a lot of these football teams that we have today, a lot of these franchises, yeah, they might have won Super Bowls and championships in the past, but at some point, the product gets old, it gets stale, and sometimes you want something new and fresh to resurrect the sport itself. And I'm not saying that the sport hasn't been resurrected with high television ratings, high cable ratings, and of course now you can do live streams of football games on the internet. But I get this sense that if in the next 5 to 10 years, if Roger Goodell is still the commissioner, I would love for him to actually consider the idea of at least 1 to 2 teams from Canada playing in the NFL. And one of the things that I think should happen in the next 10 to 15 years in professional football, if it would ever actually happen, if they would for once allow it to happen for business revenue from a economic standpoint, not just necessarily entertainment, that is to let one of its greatest professional football teams in the NFL play against a Canadian football team in the Super Bowl. I mean, just imagine the possibilities on what could actually happen if you took a... Hold on, people. Hold on. So like I was saying, every time we do a video, somebody want to blow up the phone. I don't like that. Just imagine the possibilities if we took a team like the New England Patriots football team to go against a team from Canada. Or we took the Dallas Cowboys to play against a team from Canada. I know some of you might say we hate the Dallas Cowboys. We hate the New England Patriots. Well, how about the Green Bay Packers? You take a team that is rich with tradition, a team that's rich with history, 13 championships, and it ain't the first time this has actually happened. I remember when when some of these teams that we see today weren't even a part of the NFL, the team that they picked to do this was the Green Bay Packers. But this was like 60 years ago when this actually happened. And at that time, they were America's greatest football team. Now you got the New England Patriots. Just imagine before Tom Brady was to retire as a New England Patriot, they said, Tom Brady, do you want to play against some of the players from Canada? Do you know that he would jump at the opportunity to do that? If you were to ask any of these top tier quarterbacks like Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, would you consider playing against players from Canada in a Super Bowl? Just imagine if you did that in a Super Bowl. Imagine if they had a Super Bowl in London, England, or if they had a Super Bowl in Hawaii. If you can have the NFL Pro Bowl in Hawaii, why not have a Super Bowl in Hawaii? If you can have a Super Bowl at the Coliseum, why not have a Super Bowl in London, England? Why not have a Super Bowl in Canada? By allowing Canada to have at least 2 teams in the NFL, it would make more money and it would create more economic opportunities, and this would be an interesting observation. Another observation that would be nice if you took some of these teams from arena football and have them become incorporated into the NFL, which they already done. You know, you play enough arena football, you can find yourself on an actual NFL football team. I mean, there are other football teams besides the New England Patriots, Dallas Cowboys, and Green Bay Packers. We could use the New York Jets. I mean, that's a football team. That's another, like, New York City has 3 football teams. And if you let someone like the New York Giants or the New York Jets have an opportunity, just imagine what that could do for that football team. Same thing with the Washington Redskins. You know, you could resurrect an old football team by having to play against someone from Canada. You know, at least once a year. You know, the idea is that you could do that. Like when I watch basketball, the one thing that I noticed is they take a team from Brazil or from Spain and they'll play against someone like the Golden State Warriors, and you'll be like, just imagine if the NBA also did the same exact thing. You know, imagine if the NBA said, you know what, why not let some of these international European basketball teams come over here and actually be incorporated into the NBA system. Just imagine you make it to an NBA finals one day and you're Golden State and you're playing against Brazil or you're going against Italy. Just imagine that. Well, same thing with professional football. Just imagine if the New England Patriots made it to the Super Bowl and instead of them facing the New York Giants or facing someone like the Philadelphia Eagles, or instead of going against the Atlanta Falcons, they go up against someone from the Canadian Football League in a Super Bowl. Do you know how high of television ratings you would actually get if you actually do that? I mean, do you know how far they would actually go as far as contracts are concerned? You would get more football games as a result of that. Instead of 3 games you would have to win, you would probably have to win 4 games to make it more fun and more interesting for television. And then instead of the Pro Bowl, you could just have something that would say, well, if your team didn't actually make it to a Super Bowl, this would be kind of like another game that you would play that would be an equivalent to the Super Bowl. I mean, just think about the possibilities. Just imagine what you could possibly do if you allowed the NFL to allow 1 to 2 teams from Canada into the NFL. And trust me, the football players from Canada can play on a high competitive level. All you gotta do is just allow 2 teams. Doesn't matter if you put one in the West, doesn't matter if you put one in the East, and try out the experiment and see how fans like it. After all, it's just football. If you do that, people will watch. When they have arena football, it's not even NFL season, but people watch arena football. If you do that with Canadian football, take 2 teams and put them in the NFL, you can't go wrong. People will want to watch more football if you do that. And since football is America, I predict in the next 10 to 15 years, the NFL should consider the idea of one day saying, let's bring in at least 2 teams. I want to say 3, but to be on the safe side, at least 2 teams, and let's put them in the NFL. And then somewhere in the future, you can take your absolute best NFL team, one of the greatest football teams of all times, whatever team they might be, and have them face against a team from Canada in a Super Bowl. It'd be like the Olympics of professional football. I mean, a lot of you guys are scratching your head saying the NFL would never do it. That's why I said in the next 10 to 15 years, if you're talking about more football games, you might as well bring in more teams for more football games. It only makes sense economic-wise, not just entertainment-wise, if you actually do that. Like, I would say that would be the future, the distant future of NFL football. So that's pretty much a very interesting idea now, isn't it? The NFL versus the Canadian Football League. You take 2 teams from Canada to be incorporated into the NFL. 1 team from Canada in the West, 1 team from Canada on the East to balance it out. And then you take your absolute best NFL football team, someone like the New England Patriots or the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you have them face off against these teams from Canada to see if the experiment is any good. Because you're already doing it already. When you take football teams to London, England, you're kind of already doing the experiment already. So instead of doing it 50%, why don't you go the whole 100% all the way? Like, think about it. You would have the Oakland Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys playing in London, England. So if people from foreign countries already like smash mouth football, why not do that with Canada? Why not call Canada and say, give me two of your best Canadian football teams, one for the West, one for the East, and incorporate them into the NFL? Now, this almost happened back in the 1990s, and the NFL said no to the idea of that. And then someone else came in and said, you know what, let's just create our own Canadian football league since the NFL don't want to do it. And I say in the next 10 to 15 years, if they don't change the way that they get people's attention for television, because people, at some point, people are going to get tired of watching the same thing in the Super Bowl. At some point, they're going to get tired of it. So that's why I made this video. This is episode 14. I don't want to make this too long. And then maybe later in the week, I give you the final episode of my series. That'll be the NFL versus the XFL, because that one right there, we can really break down which football league is actually better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was a little different than the one yesterday, and hopefully you guys like it. All right, peace.